So I'm going to break protocol. I got permission from my mom today, this morning. Kool will tell you I am a very private person. I mean, some of you know those parents, when you leave the house, whatever happened here stays here. So I want to tell you that this means way more to me than I can ever imagine. So, family, I was very fortunate growing up for a very small part of my life. My great-grandfather was actually president of Liberia at one point. I was born over there, and there was a coup d'etat, and we had to come over here in the 80s. My parents came first, sort of to make sure things were well. And this is where I got permission to break tradition. And so my dad, shouldn't have been a dad, but he got tossed into it. And after a time, my mom got the strength to break away. The beatings just got a little bit too much, and and it was tough. As a child watching these interactions, and you're thinking, how is this AAP? Trust me, it's there. Watching a woman trying her best, and her problem, unfortunately, was that she was light-skinned. So she wasn't truly accepted by the blacks. And because she couldn't speak Spanish, she wasn't accepted by the Hispanics. And so finally, when she got that courage to break away from my dad, which was a very happy day, we lost everything. And she wanted nothing. So here she is. She didn't like any degrees or education and so forth. She's breaking her back. 3 jobs. One, to ensure that the bills were paid, and we allowed ourselves to go to Catholic schools because we're growing up in Jersey, Newark, and in New York. The second job was after hours at Pathmark, so she could make sure that we had food when the can sale came in. We started out in a studio apartment. And the third job on the weekends, and I didn't know this until years later, she would leave, and I had a 5-year-old brother, and I was about 9 at the time, and my older brother was 10, and here I am learning how to change Pampers because that's what we did back then. She was the only child. And what was amazing about that is every Sunday she would come home and she had these little cuts on her hands. And it wasn't until 5 years ago I asked her, we're sitting down, and I can do this now, I'm drinking some rum with my mom. And I'm like, Mom, you always had these cuts. She's like, baby, on the weekends, I had to go to Chinatown in New York to stuff pocketbooks because they paid us cash so I could make sure that you guys were taken care of in the subway back and forth for school. Eventually, we moved to Park Avenue. Unfortunately, she never had the opportunities. No one called her in for a job, no one, because she looked differently. And growing up, I was told, you keep what's going on in this house separate. You don't want DSS coming in because they're going to separate us. They don't understand our struggles. They don't understand so many things. And here I am going to school, busting my butt, working so hard, made it, got to the Citadel, it was top of my class. And the first day I matriculated down August of, I ain't going to say the year, but I matriculated in August. And when I got there, someone said, oh, I guess you got in because of affirmative action. Another chocolate chip in this cookie. So they didn't know my struggle. But I believed them. I believed that I got it because I was black. So I started to do some research. And the more I sought information on what this affirmative action was or is, or I realized people were just misinformed. But what was the common theme? That things that happen in my home happen in so many other families, people that don't look like me, people that try to be better, but never have the opportunity. So I wanted to bring you all here this morning to let you know that there is a struggle behind every affirmative action program. It's not just your homes. Think about it. From the beginning of time, which is kind of pathetic, but women, even demonstrating after World War II that they themselves can do the same work and do it well in many instances, just wanted equal pay for equal work. And even during those whole periods, and it started from the 60s, it catapulted so many opportunities and fights. People just wanted to sit at a restaurant, just wanted to have an opportunity for a job through the civil rights movement, and still, even though they passed this national law, Lyndon B. Johnson had to sign Executive Order 11246 to create affirmative action so that federal contractors can take the lead and show individuals how to give opportunities. And then imagine this. There's a draft, there's a lottery. The Vietnam War was going on. Imagine being forced to fight a war that you did not agree to fight. There's a life expectancy at the height of the war of 2 weeks for a second lieutenant. So imagine coming home, fighting a war you didn't want to fight, but because people had their opinion that it was a bad war, they did not want you. The bills were not being paid, but then you remember the bullets were non-discriminatory. But our own people were. And you take it a step further, disability has been around for so long, and yet we shun them. I kid you not. There are times when I'm hanging out with individuals growing up in New York and Jersey, and there are individuals that are disabled and they just couldn't walk right and couldn't do something right. And there were times when we had parties, because all the rich people wanted to hang out. They will go, what are we going to do with Pops? Let's put him in a garage. Let's just ostracize him because we don't want to look bad in front of everyone else. This is real, y'all. And you take it a step further. Immigration. Individuals that came here to better their family. I tell you, I would fight to do the same thing. And it was a point where our Congress says we got to get rid of them. And the more we did research, the more we looked into realized they were a part of our economy. They were, so now money matters. So we have to make sure that we make an opportunity. And there was a pathway to citizenship for these individuals to show, as long as they can prove they've been here. There's a 5-year path towards getting a resident alien card and being able to become a citizen and take care of their families. It's been going on. This is 1986. And there were so many other things. I mean, think about it. How sad is it that in the 80s, if you were gay, you had AIDS? What the? If you were gay, you had AIDS. And my grandma, bless her heart, I love her to death. She's not here, so I couldn't get permission. But my aunt, because my aunt started finding comfort in someone that looked like her gender, my family ostracized her, forgetting that she was the first female pilot for Pan Am America. But no, because she was with another woman, and forgetting that her husband was extremely abusive, but because she was with another woman, she had AIDS. And I remember they were invited her to the house, and you know what we would do? We got to clean everything up. We would soak the dishes in Clorox right after she left. What the flip? This is America, y'all. There is a struggle behind every affirmative action program, and as we even go further, you know what's crazy? It never stops. 9/11 occurred. And you know what happened? Instead of coming together with the people that were here, that were Americans, because the people that did a bad thing, they had a certain look. I don't know if y'all remember this, but we hated Muslims. You wear a burqa, or you just walk on a plane and you just, whoa, profiling. This is real, y'all. And every instance, there was a struggle for a fight to be included. And don't forget the housing market crash. People lost their homes. Oh, well, they were stupid with their investments and so forth. And you know what? They're trying to apply for a job, but you know what you need when you're trying to apply for a job? You need an address. But because they're living in the streets, they didn't do well. They're not like us. We're not going to give them an opportunity. Amy Stevens. Could you imagine looking in the mirror and not liking what you saw? And just realizing, I want to be me. And for 6 years, imagine 6 years just to write one email, letter to her boss to say, I want to live how I believe. I have shown in 6 years of work that I can do everything well. But because I'm going to start putting a dress on, you're going to get rid of me. And what was so sad, June 13th, when the verdict, the Supreme Court ruled, she died a week before and never got to see it. So I'm going to ask you, before we go into this, because I've drank the Kool-Aid. I believe in what I'm doing. This is not lip service. This is not a check off the box. Some of you, if we're dealing together and we're on the phone and there's a problem when I'm looking through your data, we're having some follow-up calls. This ain't no joke. We are here. People don't want a job. They want an opportunity to compete for the position. So before we go down this presentation, I need you to raise your hand. And I need you to say, I'm with you. I'm going to drink this Kool-Aid for the next 40 minutes. And I'm here to be better. Can I get the hand? All right, we've all drank that Kool-Aid. Oh, yeah. So, and again, I am literally breaking tradition here. No one knows anything about my life. I don't tell it. Go search online. What's online is what I put. But here's something funny. Momolu Cooper came into America, and I was told in Catholic school, we're not doing that Momolu thing. We're going to call you Andrew Cooper. So all of my documentations from 1st to 8th grade, Andrew Cooper. I was ostracized to not use my name because people were not comfortable with it. And then high school, Andrew Cooper's better for you. That's the only way you're going to succeed. And you know what? They were trying to help me. But they weren't trying to elevate me up to be who I was meant to be. There's a difference. I got to college, and it was Andrew Cooper. I fought for 2 weeks to get my diploma in college to say Momolu Andrew Cooper. Because people were trying to help me. They were trying to fix me and where I needed to be. This is real, y'all. This is why I'm intentional with everything that I do, because life is so short. People just want to take care of their family and leave something better than where and how they found it. So what's next? We drank the Kool-Aid. We're online here. What I want to talk about is building an audit-tested foundation. I can tell you right now that no one cares about your DEI program if you can't get through a compliance review. You can drop the mic right there. I also want to talk about ensuring compliant processes. I'm going to try to bring all this together. I want to talk about how do you audit your processes. We have examples of that. I want to talk about identifying external forces. Now that your AAP is done, what's the next step? And then I want to have a final thought. People are looking at me from OutSolve. They're like, It's the first time I broke tradition. My mom gave me the permission, so we're good on this front. So there's some people here that know this story. I tend to be a little bold. I don't care if you don't like me. That's all right. This too shall pass. But I remember going on site for a client, and I said, we just signed them on. This is where I think we need to focus on. Let's look at our data. Let's look at the AAP. Let's look at our processes. Let's look at everything that's aligned to take care of our people first. 3 days training, meeting with recruiters and everything. And I had someone come up to me. You can cut the bullshit. All right, I get it. You're black, affirmative action. I get it. But we have a great DEI program. That's what you need to focus on. The robust part. Some people looking at me right now like, oh, I know this story. But yeah. And I said to him, no, we signed you up for affirmative action. Well, we're going to probably ask for another consultant. Good luck, because you got me now. And after a certain period, the company that they had mirrored their D&I program with got an audit, got fined several $100,000 because they didn't have good processes in place. And then everyone at that DEI program at that company got let go. And now we're good friends. So I'm bringing it all together, and it's so simple. I mean, when you look at affirmative action, it's really, we're going to look at where we recruit and hire, how that looks. When we're looking at our organization, we're going to look at the demographical area of where we recruit and hire. And if that area that we say we recruit from has a certain percentage of minorities, green, red people, and so forth, based on the jobs that they identify to have in that area, then we look at our employment. In a perfect world, absent discrimination, in theory, over time, as people come in, and hopefully we're not killing our recruiters, because as they bring people in, more people are leaving. Over time, our employment should, in theory, look like the area that we recruit from. But Cooper, we're basing everything from the 2018 census, and it doesn't have anything in line with COVID. People moved out of the area, so people that identified in 2018 and before, they're no longer there. That's logic. But right now we're building an audit-tested foundation, and then you set goals and monitor. I wanted to throw something out here. If you're underutilized, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but if you're underutilized by women and so forth, and we're breaking it out by job group, have you ever thought, how many people here have job groups? Okay. Have you ever thought to look at the jobs that you're going to be hiring for within the next year, and then looking at the jobs that don't have women or minorities? Because you're not going to change the goals if you keep doing the status quo, but if there are jobs over a period of time that we constantly only hire non-minorities or things that are not aligned with our goals, instead of looking at the job group, look at the job title and see where we need to make adjustments. So we have to be specific in what we do when it comes to setting our goals and trying to monitor. And I will tell you, you have to be able to measure these things. You have to have a plan in place, and your AAP will showcase this, but if you're looking at job groups from your AAP, you need to have another process in place to see, how are we measuring this? Did we get the individuals that we're looking for? And if not, let's not blame our hiring personnel and our recruiters, but can we measure this? You take it a step further. Can we actually achieve this? The first day, someone made a reference like, we can't hire, a certain female conductor or so forth, and not throwing anybody on the bus, but it hit home because it reminded me, you know, we're trying to hire for female conductors, and here we are saying we need our recruiters to find us female conductors outside the organization. But yet, we have so many individuals working at our organizations that we're not even exposing this opportunity that they can be a conductor. Because, and I'm not saying their organization, but I'm talking about another organization that they said they couldn't hire a lineman, a female lineman. It was so difficult because that's just not the job that they do. And you know what's funny? They never even thought to look at the janitor to see if maybe they wanted to participate in the training program. Because you know what? We have our own bias. Because you're mopping floors doesn't mean you can do what we need you to do. But the person had 2 master's degrees. They didn't want to do a lineman because they had a fear of heights, but they always had a desire. But when they started opening it up, all of a sudden they started hiring from within and moving individuals to opportunities that they never would have had. So make sure that what we're setting for our people is actually realistic and is actually achievable and relevant to what we're doing. But don't waste the time of our people. After a while, if things are not working, reassess. This is the time that we're going to go. You can't just keep yelling. I tell you, being a manager is hard. Team 6, they'll tell you, I pull up to the office. I listen to some gospel music. I get my mind set. I want to make sure that when I go in there, I'm there for them. So I check emails before I even go into work. Because I know the first thing when I walk in, they're going to need someone to be there. I'm trying to be the Cooper that I needed in my past jobs. So when I walk in that office, and they're there looking at me, and they're asking, hey, blah, blah, I'm there. I'm not stressed. I ain't got time for this. I need my cup of coffee before. You ever heard that before? Don't talk to me till I get my cup of coffee. Well, you could have had a cup of coffee at your house before you got here. It was a 30-minute drive. Stop wasting our people's times because we don't have the time to take care of them. And how do we ensure these processes? I will tell you, it's very easy. Can we explain in writing every activity at the organization? Because if no FCCP auditor comes up and wants to talk to our hiring manager, and I love it when we're trying to figure out who they need to talk to, and they're like, Cooper, they can't talk to that person now. They can't shut up. They're going to keep talking. They have some issues. So think about this. One of the things in the affirmative action programs looking at our employment activities, separations, involuntary versus voluntary separations. And Cooper, we ain't got time. When people leave, we ain't got time to talk to them. Have you ever thought to look at the departments and look at the rate of exit by departments rather than just as a company or a job group? We've done that and found out there was a manager that just had a little inkling and wore their politics on their sleeves and was old school. But good for him, he played golf with the senior executives, so he was okay. But over 3 years, we're able to identify, looking at the departments, that determinations, anyone that touched that area of the building left. There was a fungus, there was a virus. You know what happens? Oh, don't talk to that one. And then we accept it. We accept people piss poor behavior. We do, because they do good work. Well, hell, they can do it somewhere else. I'm just being honest here. You're either gonna like me or you're not. It's okay. But those that leave, well, Cooper, they never tell us why they left. Well, maybe they didn't want to tell you. Maybe you're part of the problem. Because I tell you right now, whoever they were working with, they told them. They knew when they were leaving. They knew when it was going to happen. And trust me when I tell you here, you hear me? They celebrated. Oh, you know it's falling apart right now since you left. Woo! What? Oh, he walked in his office right now. I think he's cussing. Uh-oh. So stop having our managers who says people can't just fill out surveys anonymously and make it anonymous. You know, I was looking at the survey the other day, and you know, when he left, he said this. You know what happened? There's a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. We also want to look at all our new hires. Can we write, whenever there's a job need, the processes surrounding with them? Do we know? How do we list a requisition? How's that need? How do we establish all that? Is it already in writing? Because if it's not, you're not going to do well in an OFCCP review. Because how we're going to make sure that all of our other officers are doing the same thing if it wasn't already in writing? So what did we do in the last 2-3 years? And I will tell you, someone in your organization needs to explain the processes that's already in writing from the time a candidate applies to their first day on the job. You're looking at me like, holy, it needs to be in writing. Promotions. I hate promotions. I really do. Until I get promoted. But when we look at our AAP, we're throwing all promotions in there, and we're not designating whether or not they're competitive or not competitive. There are individuals that can move up one level because of what they're doing, and it's all on them. They're not preventing anyone else from a job, and those are non-competitives. So when you're getting ready for an audit, make sure you can define competitive versus non-competitive. Let's compare apples to oranges here, or apples to apples, rather. For those non-competitive promotions, are we fair that someone can move up from a 1 to a 2? Have we even told them how they can move up from a 1 to a 2? Did we meet with them periodically to ensure that they knew how the processes, how that flow? Or is it because you're friends with the manager, we're going to move you up to a 1 to a 2? Or because some people feel, well, I do the exact same work that they do, give me the title. And transfers, those that are temporary, those that are permanent. Be mindful. There's 2 types of transfers, from one AAP to the next, but I'm talking about from one job to the other. If you're going to transfer somebody to work here temporarily, and that job is going to help them later on to move up in the organization, how did you define that person anyway? Because you're giving opportunities to people that's not fair for those that did not. Now, in every review, and my previous employers, this was a witness here, can we explain why people in the same job titles are being paid differently? I will tell you, there's a project manager here, there's a project manager here. Well, one's making $150,000 and the other's making $40,000. Well, Cooper, this is really bad. Yeah, so tell me, what does the one with the more money? Well, you know, they brought in, more revenue. Their job's tied to more responsibilities. They also came with a host of certification. Well, hell, change the damn job title. It's not the same job. When was the last time you looked at what someone was doing with the same job title? You think I like doing the same job, but I'm busting my butt out there working 7 days a week, and someone else, oh, it's so nice, our little bonuses that we got, right? Stop laughing. Hang in there. It's going to get worse. So Carrie couldn't be here today, and I told her to send me some quotes, and I told her I'll make her a rock star. But training our hiring managers and recruitment team is essential to making informed, unbiased, and strategic decisions that shape the future of our organization. Training is going to be a big part of everything that we do, because everything that we're putting together, if we don't train our managers so that they can actually explain the processes, then we failed. Not to mention, Our employees. Everyone here knows how to apply for leave, right? But what if I wanted to complain about someone else? How do I do that? You want me to just go to the EEOC? So make sure if you got an ombudsman, you have things in place, you document the training, and everyone's going to have all these things. But auditing your processes. I want you to have this slide. The real value lies not in getting through the audit, but applying the lessons learned to strengthen our processes and practices. This is someone that drank the Kool-Aid. She's not, come on, OFCCP, bring it. And they've had, literally, by clockwork, every 2 years, they get an audit. And we've been partners since 2008. And letter compliance every time. Let's do this. We can do this every day, every way, shape, form, or fashion. We got this. So don't be afraid of audits. Audit your processes before the audit. And so we've done fire drills. This is where we actually send an OFCCP letter to see how long it takes before it gets to where it needs to go, because sometimes our mailroom just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And then mock audits. This is where we look and ask questions and so forth. Can you really answer questions from the OFCCP about your hiring process? Be helpful if you had some type of thing. So these are things that we do. We want you to look at those individuals that have left your organizations. Can you explain 2-3 years ago why someone left? And our outdating hiring policies. We had a situation once with an organization and did a little mock audit for them. And I'm looking at them like, wow, you have so many minorities in your area, but when they apply, you block them out. Utility company. And they said, well, Cooper, we have a rule. You got to live within 25 miles of our office. And I was like, well, why? And it's like, well, you know, if there's a storm, you know, they have to be able to come back and within a certain time frame, the trucks and so forth. And I said, okay, do me a favor. Find out when that rule came in place and why. 2-3 weeks later, I'm like, come on, tell me, let's go. It was from 1978. That's just the way things were done around there. 1978. Not realizing the 3-4 major interstates have been created that actually made it half the time for those that live locally to get there. So review all those hiring processes. Look at the individuals that are coming into our organizations. Can they find us? Can I apply to a job? When was the last time you applied for a job at your organization just to make sure everything was there? When was the last time you used the phone to apply for a job? Because that's how people do things nowadays, and all of a sudden, they don't see the self-ID. People are not self-IDing, Cooper. Well, that's because they're applying on their phone, and you have some little blocker that the second they go to apply, the self-ID becomes another window, so they never see it. When was the last time you applied for a job on the phone at your organization? And do they have the tools to stay? Especially our veterans. You hire me, I'm here, I don't understand what things are going on at your organization, and you know what happens? We blame them. They just ain't getting it. Told you not to hire a veteran. And you know what? OutSolve did a test to call out all the BS. So I can be on here today to tell you it's BS. I blame our managers, 100%. If someone's failing, it's you. If you got bad kids at the family reunion, who do you think they're looking at? Don't hide. We know Rodney shouldn't be in the pool, but you're going to let him go anyway, but that's all right. So we did a test. We just hired a veteran. And imagine that veteran coming in, and before they came on board, we showed them images. Hey, do you work this way? Let me show you pictures of your office. Is this okay? Do you want this here? Is that all right? Do you like this office? Cool. You're in logistics? Got it covered. So the first day they came on, we gave them a full syllabus. This is what we're going to do this week. This is how things are going to progress. And we're going to train you in this role before you even start doing the job. And then I had to put on my big boy pants, and we had to convert, and I had some friends at the National Guard, and we talked about applicant tracking, and we converted it to how their processes were and based on their jobs. So when we were teaching them the military way of how to understand our jobs, and they got it. So if people are failing, look in the mirror. Do better. The beauty about this is, once all of that is done, ask yourself, we've looked at our census of people that identified with jobs that are like us, and people are not coming on. They don't look like our community. So what are the external forces? And so there's a partnership we've had now, gosh, a decade, Valisa, and she's going to come up stage in a second. But I want to tell you a little bit about Valisa. Valisa don't bullshit. We first met, we weren't online because I was dealing with somebody else from a different managerial point and so forth, but you know what? That light shine. Valisa's that one. You ever be driving a car and the kid's in the back? Well, what about this? And what about that, Daddy? You know, and you're like, yeah, I'm answering that question. Yeah, okay. And after a while, he's like, gosh, damn, another question? Okay, yeah, you answer a question. And then about 10 minutes later, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, you got another question going on? They got ADHD. We need to put them on some pills. And so Valisa asks questions. Not only does she ask questions, she wants to level the playing field. Okay, that's right. And then we started our little, and this is where we introduced the weekly sessions where we talk every week. We talk every 2 weeks. We text in, Cooper, this coming up. Let's have a call. Is this compliance related? Can we do this? We have tested that organization inside and out. And people are drinking the Kool-Aid. So I want you to come up here, Valisa, if you can. Come on, you're mic'd up so you can't say anything. And she's in healthcare, the largest employer in Michigan. And I want you, if you can, to tell us when, because healthcare is not fair here. So as we took care of all of their employees, she started to look outside of the organization. And so if you can explain the different parts of your organization here, as you can see, they're large.
So, I am on automatic?
Yeah, you own.
Okay, beautiful. Glad I didn't say nothing while I was sitting down.
I told you, she'll tell you.
So, a little bit about Kool Health. We are located in the state of Michigan. When I started the organization, 10 years ago, we were approximately about 30,000 employees. We were the largest employer in West Michigan and the largest health system. We also have we're an integrated health system, and what that basically means is it's very important for us to do a lot of coordination of care. If you come to our health system, you might have to go to another health system to get certain services. In addition to us being an integrated health system, we have an insurance arm. And so our insurance arm, and a lot of times, have to stay separate from our health system just by nature of how we operate, just to ensure that we're not creating any concerns of competitiveness when it comes to things like employment, offering services, et cetera. Fast forward about 3 years ago, we integrated with another health system on the east side of the state, and now we have become one of the largest employers in the state of Michigan. We have about 70,000 employees. We operate across the entire state. We also operate outside of the state with another insurance company that we just acquired in Indiana state, but then we also have remote employees that service our insurance organization. Outside of that, we are, I would say, very diverse. Well, a lot of organizations are very diverse, but I consider us very diverse because not just of the people, but also the services that we offer. In addition to the people, we have probably, in addition to the 70,000 employees, we have about 15,000 nurses. We have over 20,000 independent providers. We service about 1.3 million members with our health plan. And when I look at it in totality, in the United States, probably roughly 1 of every 10 person you can find in healthcare. In Michigan, it's about 3.1% of Michigan is actually healthcare employees. At our organization, we employ about 12.5% of people in healthcare. So we're pretty large. And with that being said, I don't know what else you're going to go here.
I just want to let you know.
I will talk. So
she knows her
I
stuff.
ask a lot of questions. I'm also a talker. So, go ahead.
So for you, we started this process and you came on board, and the next thing we started looking at is how do we now change the community? Because the people in the community don't have the jobs that the census say they have, but we don't look like our community. So what did you start doing?
So that leads me to, as a healthcare system, largest employer in the state of Michigan, provider, as well as one of the largest ones that provide health services, we want to make sure that we are a reflection of the community that we serve. And so for us, being able to do that means, how do we leverage our affirmative action data? Is Victoria still here? You said one of my key phrases, I love, love, love. We don't count people. We make sure people count. So in doing that, our whole premise is, as an anchor institution in a health system, I wanted to come in and actually help not just do the job. So just a little quick snippet about myself. My background by trade is engineering. I did engineering for many years, and then I changed my career because of my passion for DEI. So when I came into the organization, I leveraged, people ask, how did you move from engineering to DEI? It was all about data for me, and all about how do we ensure that there's equal and equitable opportunities for everybody that I work with. And so when I moved into healthcare, as an anchor institution, it became more of a passion for me, because I learned how to look at the data provided through our relationship with affirmative action and really get to the point where we are not only improving economic outcomes and creating sustainable pathways in our community for our people, especially those we serve, but also helping our organization understand the connection between economic and health. There's this term called social determinants of health. Is anybody familiar with social determinants of health? Social determinants of health is understanding that where people live, where they work, and where they play impacts their health. So when we talk about affirmative action, I'm sharing up here what we do in terms of healthcare. Every single person in here, no matter where you work, what you do impacts a person's health. So when you're looking at things like affirmative action and how can you actually utilize the plans, you are in a great position to help improve the life expectancy of the people who work for you. And this is just, it might seem simple, but when I had a chance to, Cooper's question, kind of penetrate, if you will, the organization to really drive and understand the criticalness of utilizing affirmative action data as the foundation of everything that we do, that's what it started with, getting to the hearts and the minds of understanding the affirmative action data is looking at a lot of the historical context of marginalized communities and the impacts that it has on their ability to live. And healthcare just became exciting for me because in healthcare it's all about saving lives, but every single industry in here has an obligation in your community, especially if you're doing affirmative action, because to me that's a gold mine. It identifies a lot of the areas that you want to start with to create opportunities to increase diverse representation in your organization, bring perspectives, and in addition to bringing perspective, bringing those lived experiences so you can help whatever your organization is, whether it's serving their bottom line, which is great, but you're also serving the client that you serve. So you talk about those external factors. Something that's simple from our affirmative action plan without telling, it's Chatham House rules, so without telling so much information, is that our affirmative action program, it is it provides us with an opportunity to look at the different locations in our community and see where there is areas of opportunity to increase diversity based on location. From a healthcare perspective, it also provides us with an opportunity to look at those areas and those locations by zip code. And based on those zip codes, see where individuals are situated in what is called, in some cases, social vulnerable index. People who might be low employment, challenged with housing, challenged with food insecurity. Align that and map that with our affirmative action areas of opportunities, and then we can actually build out DEI action plans that not only drive, I call it low-hanging fruit to address affirmative action, but really change lives of people internally and externally that we serve. And I'm going on a tangent, so
You're
please
good.
stop me
You're
anytime.
good.
So that's really, you know, the premise and the passion of how we've been able to really take it and move. And I'm going to add one more thing. We've leveraged this, created a number of programs. One of the programs we've created is called the Outside In, Inside Up. Studying a term called occupational segregation, I learned that every single industry deals with occupational segregation, where you have a lot of individuals on the front line tend to be marginalized individuals trying to move up within the organization. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Look it up, I'm not lying. Your industry probably deals with it too. So the goal is, how can we actually, again, leverage the work that we do in this space from a compliance standpoint, but make it become a natural part of the process so compliance does not become a bad word. Tammy and I work together, and I always tell people when I come into a meeting, the first thing they see is, oh, here come HRDEI, it's a compliance issue. No, it's not. We're not the compliance police, especially in DEI. Some HR people, you are compliance police because you have to be. But our goal is to come in and sit down and really look at what your plan is, what your strategies are, leveraging your affirmative action for the betterment of the people that we serve. So we have a program called Outside In, Inside Out. It's looking at a lot of our team members who have low income status. In addition to low income status, they have certain situations in terms of education. Our premise is to be able to remove barriers that prevent them from getting gainful employment inside the organization to move up, or if they're outside the organization to move in. Again, we use this foundation from affirmative action to identify where is those hot spots where we can go and create interventions so we can open up access to individuals so that they can, again, get gainful employment, and understanding that employment outcomes actually help to improve health outcomes. There's a lot of research around that now. Stop.
So you get your act together, you clean up your house, and then try to figure out why the people outside your organization don't look like the people inside the organization, and then you change lives. Mm-hmm. Affirmative action helps people, especially when they're dealing with the struggles. And I will tell you, the next step, we have the metrics, it's out there, but having that census with the community. When was the last time you actually walked into, and she knows what I'm about to get to, but walked into a Hispanic outreach source? Or, for instance, we had a client once that this was the last president that came out, and he said some things, just being real here, and people felt uncomfortable and they were afraid. And so the Hispanics, they all came together and they were like, what's gonna happen? What are we gonna do? And there was a crew, one of our clients was in the back, I'm not gonna say their names, but they were in the back, and their employees were like, we fine. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, we ain't worried about nothing. Our CEO sent an email to everybody that said, no matter your situation, you will always have employment. We have your back. Now, all those other people wanted to join this organization, but when you start taking care of your people, D&I, the goals comes in, and one of my mentors, Dr. J, she references D&I as like a garden. You can have so many plants. There are some that needs a little bit more care, a little bit more Nurture, it's going to be all right. We going to get through this. And then there are some, like my nana used to say, thrives off of gross neglect. You know, and then you have those that need just a little bit of shade, just needs a little bit of help. We're going to give you a little bit of boost of energy. We're going to play some music. That's D&I. When you start taking care of the needs of each employee rather than the whole, you can't water them all the same. And having those support groups in place, our ERG groups, you're going to have those aspirational goals. It just goes right back to your community. Start in-house, work yourself up. And then the last piece, how are we supporting our employees? I'm not just talking about finance and all this other stuff. We driving to work, we tired. We leave work, we tired. But if you're in this business and you're in these roles, get over it. These are people's lives in your hand. I want to go with a final thought. And this is kind of dear to me. Once in my life, I met someone, and it was weird because he was a guy, and we connected. I mean, I've never had someone that wasn't in my family that didn't look like me, and we connected on every level. It was the best bond I've experienced in my life. True connection on friendship. And we would hang out. His wife would come on over, would chill, and she would badmouth me, and we would get along, and life was good. And, you know, the housing market came in place, and the crash hit, and things he just bought his new home, and things were good. But then his dad moved in. Well, his father-in-law moved in because he lost his house and didn't have a job. And then his cousin moved in. And then his wife's brother moved in because he was the anchor. And I remember getting off work and we'd sit down and we'll shoot the breeze. And I didn't know he was stressed. I didn't know. We would drink, and he would drink a little bit too much. We'd go home, we'll talk. And the things, as I go back now and I replay so many instances, the father wanted to work, and he only had one job, and he was still active duty, and he just couldn't get the extra income to support everyone. And so he started to, his wife wanted to get a job, and she applied for a local bank. And you know what? They just weren't fast enough because the manager was going on vacation and weren't going to make any decisions until they came back. And then the father tried to get a job, but because he didn't have that much, you got the little bald head going and you're kind of old. I don't know if you really know mechanics. You have the certification, but there's a certain culture here. And there was a delay that compounded over and over. And then my stupid butt decided I'm going to go run with the Marines one night, because like I said, I'm stupid. And I'm running and I fall and I fracture my jaw and, I'm tightened up and I'm laying in the bed and he texts me and he goes, "It was too much." It's like, okay, what's going on? And I'm drugged up and I'm texting him back and he's like, if they could have just gotten some jobs, I wouldn't be stressed out, but I figured this is the easiest way. And I'm talking to him, I'm texting, what's going on? What's going on? What the hell? It's like, bro, what's going on? He's like, you're the best friend. I left some stuff in the Jeep, who was parked outside. It's like, okay, what's going on? So I dozed off. Next morning, I had the Air Force, everybody knocking on my door because he had taken his life. And I was the last person that he spoke to. Now, I'm not saying those managers and so forth were the causes of him taking his life. But they took time away from me. Justin Daniel Sisk is the reason I get up every day to do this job. I don't care if you don't like me, but we're going to do this. We're going to make sure there are opportunities out there. We're going to make sure that people get a better life, even if it's just time. So when you leave here today, do better. Be intentional. Save some lives. That's all I got.